Players Cup Invitational. Not the Invitational, the qualifiers, excuse me. So going to be switching up here completely with that Dragapult Colossal. You would highly expect that Urshifu to be the Rapid Strike variety. Having access to the Aqua Jet as well would be another way of getting that steam engine going on the Colossal. And some quite expected picks coming out from Nils here. He has been using that Hyper Offensive core in recent weeks, so going to be bringing that out once again. With the Talonflame being able to set the Tailwind with that Gale Wings ability, would be able to put most of Nils' Pokemon faster than the Colossal, even if it were to get its steam engine going, and would also put the Pokemon faster than the Dragapult as well, before it would be able to get the Surf to be able to activate that weakness policy in the first place. So maybe the Urshifu wants to be going for the Aqua Jet into the Colossal to be able to activate that steam engine, if that's what Antonio is going to be going for, because it wouldn't care if the Tailwind was set up that turn by the Talonflame.
Oh yeah, 100%. I have actually seen that strategy go around as well, because it makes a lot of sense to just threaten so much with that Urshifu as well. But without any further ado, we're just going to be seeing the leads coming out. We're going to be seeing Nils going for that hyper-offensive Tailwind support lead of the Talonflame and Cinderace, as Antonio is going to be going for that Colossal and the Dragapult, maybe trying to opt for that Surf and the proc of weakness policy as well as Steam Engine.
You always have to be wary of that Surf when you're facing down the Dragapult and Colossal, but the Talonflame was led for Nils here. He would be able to set up that Tailwind with the priority of the Gale Wings as well. It would allow the Cinderace to outspeed both the Colossal and the Dragapult. Dragapults are usually carrying Focus Sash on the Colossal team, so it would be able to survive any attack that would be fired off into it, even if the Cinderace was carrying something like that Sucker Punch. If it went for the Max Darkness as it's in its Dynamax form or Gigantamax form, it would be able to threaten that Dragapult with big damage. But then the Dragapult, if it is carrying the Focus Sash, would be able to survive that. Would also be able to threaten down the Colossal with a fighting type attack, but Colossal doesn't want to be taking that at all. It's going to be switching into that Togekiss instead.
Yeah, that Togekiss is going to be switching in right now, as it definitely does not want to get hit, and it is more than aware of that Tailwind support on Nils' side, as we are going to be seeing a Dynamax coming out from Nils' side. It will be that Cinderace. Question is it a Gigantamax form? It is indeed a Gigantamax Cinderace now on the field, threatening huge amounts of damage, especially if it has that Tailwind support on its side and it targets, let's say, the Dragapult. We do see the Tailwind come out from the Talonflame, so it does make this Cinderace faster than the Dragapult, but Max Knuckle actually comes out from the Cinderace, changes its typing to fighting, of course, thanks to the Libero ability, and it goes into Togekiss, which quad resists it, but of course it is going to be getting a boost in its attack stage by 1, as well as the Talonflame, so I'm curious to see what the Dragapult's going to be doing. It's just going to go for a breaking swipe, bringing that attack back down to neutral on both of Nils' Pokemon, as we did see the Cinderace as well reveal that Life Orb.
Yeah, so the Max Knuckle being countered completely by that breaking swipe as well. Using up one of the Gigantamax turns on the Cinderace, it really wanted to land that Max Knuckle into the Colossal and deal a huge amount of damage, but the Togekiss being a great switch in for Antonio. It just shows that you don't need to be just going for that Surf immediately whenever you leave with that Dragapult Colossal. You can save that option for later on in the game, and worked out very, very well for Antonio here. Not taking too much damage, counteracting that Max Knuckle with the breaking swipe as well. Also stalling out a turn of Tailwind from the Talonflame as well. The Gale Wings has been broken, so if Antonio is able to stall out the Tailwind, then the Dragapult would be able to outspeed that Talonflame once again to be able to get that Surf going. But the Talonflame is going to be switching out here into that Urshifu.
Yeah, Urshifu, Single Strike is going to be coming onto the field for Nils now, as Antonio decides to opt for his own Dynamax, and it will more than likely be this Togekiss. Oh, actually, sorry, this Dragapult, pardon me. As we do see it on the field, it maybe wants to try to go and get some boost going for itself. Maybe some max airstreams and try to counter that Tailwind over time. So we are going to be seeing the Togekiss actually going for Protect, not even wanting to redirect any potential Max Darknesses. As Max Steel Spike actually comes out from the Cinderace, it will be trying to target this Togekiss from what it seems. And and it won't be able to pick up a KO, but oh my lord, that is so much damage. It's incredible, and that's even through a protect, as it will be boosting its own and Urshifu's defense by 1 stage. As the Dragapult will now be moving straight after it with that max Wormwind, goes into the Urshifu, was hoping to maybe pick up a KO onto a Talonflame, but the Urshifu was able to take that really, really well. Obviously, thanks to the fact that max Steel Spike was able to further boost the defenses on Nils' side.
But you still get that attack drop from the Wormwind as well, so now the Cinderace, even though it was boosting its attack with the Max Knuckle, is now at -1 stages of attack. Urshifus don't usually tend to care too much about the attack drops, because the signature moves, whether that's the Wicked Blow or the Surging Strikes, will always get that critical hit, but would be going for a Wicked Blow into the potential redirection of the Togekiss as well this turn. It's interesting seeing not the Colossal on Antonio's side go for the Dynamax. That's usually the Pokemon that you want to be going for the Dynamax when you bring that Pokemon to the team, but very interesting choice to go for the Dynamax on that Dragapult, as the Colossal's going to be switching in now, but Dragapult can't go for a Surf into it.
Yeah, we're just going to be seeing the Cinderace go for that Max Steel Spike into the Togekiss slot, wanting to pick up a KO, but it actually lands on a Colossal and just brings it to about half of its HP, whilst bringing its defense to +2 for both the Urshifu and itself. Wicked Blow comes out, and oh my lord, we actually see a reveal. It was trying to go and pick up the KO onto the Dragapult, but wasn't able to, even though it did get a critical hit thanks to that Colbur Berry. So very interesting choice of item on that Dragapult, as the Max Phantasm does go out into the Cinderace, bringing the Cinderace and the Urshifu's defense back down to +1 from that +2 that it previously was.
Very, very interesting item choice on the Dragapult, but key, it let it survive that Wicked Blow. As we saw, it did over half HP to the Dragapult. Would have been enough to pick up the KO on that Dragapult without that Cold Berry. So very nice item choice there, allowing the Dragapult to stick around. Still able to fire off one other max move, but we are still in the tailwind, so the Urshifu would still be outspeeding the Dragapult. Hasn't gone for any of those Airstreams either. The Colossal's come in now, but there's no Surf that could come out from the Dragapult. The Colossal can't go for its Gigantamax to be able to increase its HP anymore. We've seen that the Cinderace does carry a fighting move. It's almost certainly going to be that high jump kick as well. Would really be able to threaten down that Colossal. It may need to switch out once again into the Togekiss to be able to resist that, but then you're just really not threatening any damage onto the field as well, because the Urshifu is really threatening this Dragapult with the Wicked Blow still. So that's probably why it wants to go for that Max Guard.
Yeah, and it does indeed, but we're going to be seeing the Cinderace go for that high jump kick. Libero turns its typing back to the fighting. It lands, and it picks up the KO onto Antonio's Colossal. Lands a cheeky little critical hit as well on its way out. But yeah, so able to pick up that KO proves to be quite crucial, as the Urshifu does once again try to get rid of that Dragapult with the Wicked Blow. But if it was a Gigantamax Urshifu right now, it would have gone straight through that Max Guard, but it wasn't able to this time.
Something nice that the Max Guard has over Protect, being able to protect yourself from the unseen fist of the Urshifus. But now as the Dragapult's used up its turns of Dynamax as well, being able to stall out the Tailwinds pretty well as well. But he's still got the defense boost left over from the Max Steel Spikes from the Cinderace. So we've seen that it's the Colbur Berry on the Dragapult, so it's not going to be too offensive as a Pokemon from the Dragapult side. The Steel Spike defense boost would probably allow the Cinderace and the Urshifu to be able to shrug off any moves that it goes for. But then this Rillaboom is now coming in, going to be threatening those Grassy Glides that it loves to go for. The Cinderace has been taken down quite a lot. It's lost a lot of its HP, and it is a fighting type now, so it won't be resisting that Grassy Glide that could come out from the Rillaboom, but still got 2 stages of increased defense from the Steel Spike. It'll be closer to Cinderace, will be in range of that Grassy Glide, and especially what the item choice would be on the Rillaboom as well, whether it would be able to pick up that knockout. And the Urshifu is still threatening something like a Sucker Punch as well into the Dragapult if it wanted to go for an offensive move. And we've seen the Breaking Swipe as well as a Ghost move coming out from the Dragapult. You've got to expect that it carries Surf as well when you've got it paired with the Colossal. So maybe that last move is going to be a status move that could bypass the Sucker Punch coming out from the Urshifu as well. But we'll have to see how much damage is going to be coming out from this Rillaboom. Whether the Cinderace will be in range of a Grassy Glide. Whether the Rillaboom also just wants to go for a Fake Out to maybe put a stop to that Sucker Punch as well. But Dragapult, maybe fearing that Sucker Punch, is going to be switching out into that Togekiss.
Yeah, it does switch out for the Togekiss now as the Urshifu decides to switch out this time round for the Amoonguss on Nils' side, revealing to be the last Pokemon. As Rillaboom does go for the Grassy Glide, does it pick up the KO? It does indeed pick up the KO onto that Cinderace, dealing huge amounts of damage onto Cinderace, of course, but let's remember it wasn't resisting at the time, given that it was a fighting type. But regardless, I still don't think that, I think it, unless there's a lot of maybe defensive investment in a Cinderace, which you don't commonly see, that Cinderace was always going to be going down to that Grassy Glide.
Just showing how strong that Grassy Glide can be in that grassy terrain. The defense boost not mattering on the Cinderace here. Amoonguss is a very nice Pokemon to face down against that Rillaboom, and a little bit against the Togekiss as well, depending on whether it has Air Slash or not. Amoonguss very commonly carry Cobra Berry, so it would be able to eat that Air Slash pretty well if it is carrying that Cobra Berry, and would be able to retaliate with a Spore into the Togekiss, or a Sludge Bomb into the Togekiss or the Rillaboom. Talonflame is going to be threatening this Rillaboom now. Rillaboom's not in the greatest of positions. Grassy Glide's going to be 4 times resisted by both Pokemon on Nils' side of the field. The Talonflame would be threatening super effective damage into the Rillaboom, but it's not the strongest of Pokemon, so Rillaboom would probably be able to shrug off that move if it stays in and goes for another attack here. But then Togekiss would be able to redirect any moves that would be fired off into that Rillaboom as well. The Tailwinds coming out from the Talonflame may not need to go for that at this point. The Talonflame is going to be outspeeding most Pokemon on Antonio's side of the field. Amoonguss isn't the speediest of Pokemon, so may not be able to make use of that Tailwind as well. May just be setting up for the Urshifu to be able to outspeed the Dragapult in the back, but the Togekiss here is going to be protecting that Rillaboom.
So the Togekiss does go for that follow me, redirects any attacks that were going into the Rillaboom into itself. Grassy Glide dealing respectable amounts of damage onto that Talonflame that is quad resisted, as the Brave Bird does come out from the Talonflame, doesn't actually pick up the KO on the Togekiss, just barely misses it, which allows it to accept a Spore into the slot from that Amoonguss, does go to sleep, and we actually see a Lumberry reveal as well on the Togekiss. So once again, very interesting item choice on Antonio, but I was going to say if the Togekiss was going to go down there, its Spore still would not be affecting the Rillaboom.
Interesting item choices, but very, very useful ones. Both berries coming in clutch for Antonio's side. The Cobra Berry allowing the Dragapult to survive that wicked blow, and now the Togekiss is awake once again, able to redirect if it wants to go for that, able to fire off an attack into the Amoonguss or the Talonflame. Talonflame is now very low. It wouldn't take too much recoil if it went for another Brave Bird into the Togekiss, but if it went for any Brave Birds into the Rillaboom, it would almost certainly take itself out from recoil at this point. That's the Spore not being too effective into that Togekiss that turn, thanks to the Lumberry. Now the Togekiss gets to do what it wants for this turn. It would definitely be in range of another Brave Bird, but instead the Talonflame is going to be protecting itself.
Talonflame is going to be going for the Protect, as Rillaboom was hoping to try to pick up a KO onto that slot, but it does get met with that Protect as Togekiss goes for the Yawn into the Amoonguss, trying to slow down Nils' strategy, as the Amoonguss actually reveals Pollen Puff, which is very interesting as a choice of move onto it, because it can act both as an attack as well as a heal pulse onto your allies only if targeted. So it is going to be able to pick up the KO, as we do see Antonio once again bring that Dragapult in, looking at a 3-2 deficit.
Have you ever seen a Pollen Puff take out a Togekiss? That was quite amusing. Sludge Bomb would have easily been able to take out that Togekiss, but Pollen Puff, the move of choice here from the Amoonguss, having access to that effectively heal pulse potential into your own Pokemon as well. The Amoonguss now, it does need to decide whether it wants to switch out or just fall asleep this turn. It can't redirect any of the Grassy Glides coming from the Rillaboom, but would be able to redirect any attacks coming from the Dragapult, but we've seen that it has access to Breaking Swipe. That would be able to bypass any Rage Powders here. But the Amoonguss isn't really threatened too much itself. It could just go for another Spore into the Dragapult. There's not too much stopping it from going for that. The Grassy Glides won't be doing too much damage to this Amoonguss.
No, but oh wow, it's not going to be doing as much damage, but it's still respectable given the fact that it is quad resisted, as we do see the Breaking Swipe does come out and pick up the KO onto the Talonflame from the Dragapult, as well as deal chip damage onto the Amoonguss, only for the Amoonguss to retaliate and put it to sleep. Put that Dragapult to sleep thanks to that Spore, trying to slow down Antonio's side and any potential momentum, as we will be seeing a 2 versus 2 scenario between these two trainers.
The Urshifu will be coming in for Nils in the back now. Amoonguss will fall asleep to that yawn, so it won't be able to fire off any more attacks this turn. Whether that would have been a Pollen Puff to do some damage to the Rillaboom or heal his own Urshifu as well. So we've got the grassy terrain will be ending very soon for Antonio's side of the field. And when it does, he'll lose the priority on that grassy glide as well. So if Urshifu comes in, if it manages to just stall out those last turns of grassy terrain, it would be able to attack the Rillaboom before the grassy glide goes into it, as the Amoonguss can't go for the redirection from those grassy glides. Dragapult has been taken very low. It's going to be in range of any dark type move that Urshifu would want to go for at this stage. Whether that is a Sucker Punch to just be able to take it out before any grassy glides come out from the Rillaboom as well, but then you've got to be wary of whether that Dragapult is carrying a non-attacking move, whether it's going to carry one of those status moves. Because if it did just go for an attack this turn, it would still be able to be taken out by the Sucker Punch. But then if it does go for that status move as you're trying to bypass that grassy glide coming up from the Rillaboom, then it would just fail and be very close if the Urshifu is going to be in range of that grassy glide as well. So we've been seeing so much damage come out from the Rillaboom, but Sucker Punch does fail here.
It does fail, as we do see the grassy glide not fail and pick up the KO onto the Urshifu. So well put, Jamie. That is a scenario that must have been played out right there, with the Dragapult going for that status move. As we see Amoonguss, both Amoonguss and Dragapult take a turn of sleep. We, of course, did see Amoonguss take its guaranteed turn of sleep now, thanks to that yawn on the previous turns on that Togekiss. So do you think the Amoonguss can actually pull this out for Nils and 2v1 the Dragapult and Rillaboom?
Pollen Puff won't be doing too much damage to the Dragapult. It would be able to beat the Rillaboom 1v1, but probably not this Dragapult, especially as it's going to be dodging any attacks coming from the Amoonguss with the Phantom Force. It would probably have to be carrying Foul Play as the move choice extra, as well as the Pollen Puff to be able to take out that Dragapult. If it's not carrying that Foul Play, the Dragapult is probably going to be able to take this game. And even now, the Phantom Force is going to be doing huge damage to the Amoonguss.
Oh, definitely. Given the fact that both of Antonio's Pokemon can still just go for attacks and just chip away at this Amoonguss is so key right now. As the Amoonguss is still asleep, we saw the Phantom Force come out, deal huge amounts of damage, and the Grassy Glide was able to double up, pick up the KO onto that Amoonguss, awarding Antonio the win for Game 1, going into Game 2 with much more momentum this time round.
Yes, that status move on the Dragapult coming in clutch for Antonio's side, being able to bypass the Sucker Punch. And we did see that there was just one more turn of grassy terrain. So if the Urshifu was carrying Protect or Detect, and it went for that on that turn, it would have been able to stall out that final turn of terrain, and would have just been able to go for a Wicked Blow instead of Sucker Punch. And that wouldn't have cared about any status moves coming out from the Dragapult as well. And then the Rillaboom wouldn't have been able to beat the Amoonguss 1v1. But then the Dragapult did wake up on that first turn. It would have been able to go for the Phantom Force to avoid the Wicked Blow as well. But then without the grassy terrain, it would have been close if the Rillaboom was still able to take out the Urshifu. Even without priority, it would have lost that extra bit of damage, and maybe the Urshifu would have been able to survive in that case and then fire off the Wicked Blow afterwards. So very, very interesting endgame there, especially that Sucker Punch mind game with the Dragapult as well.
Oh, 100%. I think it was very well played from Antonio, recognizing that possibility and saying, listen, I don't want to get caught out by anything right now. I just want to play it safe, make sure I do have a status move. That Urshifu can have that Sucker Punch. I do not want to play around with it. So very well done from him there. Very interesting to see him go ahead and Dynamax the Dragapult, even though he had the Colossal in the back. What do you think about that?
Well, the Colossal didn't end up doing anything in this game. It just switched out turn 1 and then just got KO'd to a high jump kick on the next one. I find it quite interesting that Nils does have that Milotic, and whenever you see a Colossal, you're probably bringing your Water type, as it is one of the best ways of dealing with the Colossal. But instead, he just led 2 Fire types into Surf Colossal, which is quite interesting, but ended up working out as the Colossal did switch out on that first turn, but then Antonio was able to squeak out that win in the end. Maybe Nils wants to switch it up to bring that Milotic, whether it is that coil variant that we've seen so often with the Milotic, but we've also seen stuff like Helping Hand on the Milotic paired with the Cinderace as well, to increase the damage output. And I think the Helping Hand would be quite likely on this Milotic as well, as the Pokemon that Nils has on his side really want to be firing off huge amounts of damage, and Helping Hand is one way of doing that with the Milotic as well. Let's see if go on.
No, apologies, I interrupted. Well, I was just going to say, on that note, I think the reason maybe Nils didn't want to try to go straight away. He wanted to try to go for that hyper-offensive strategy, having the double fire types, having the Talonflame and Cinderace, hoping that he can out-momentum Antonio this time around. But I think, like you said, Milotic would be a very interesting switch-up. It's just, it's very scared of that Rillaboom. So I'm not sure if he's going to be thinking about a lead or not, or maybe have it in the back.
And then you still have all those Pokemon that resist the Grassy Glides. You saw how much damage that it was doing to the Talonflame and the Amoonguss as well. So if the Milotic came to the match and was able to avoid that Rillaboom, that could be very good for Nils. But it's maybe he's still expecting the Colossal lead. Whether he wants to go for that Talonflame setup again, he was going for Max Knuckle with the Cinderace, but if this Colossal went for a Gigantamax that turn as well, it would have been quite close whether a Knuckle and a Surf was able to take out that Colossal as well. But yeah, we'll have to see if there's going to be any switch-ups from both players here.
No, yeah, definitely. I'm thinking about the scenario of the Amoonguss as well, because if the Milotic does come this time around, it cannot redirect any Grassy Glides or Wood Hammers from that Rillaboom as well. So it would be in a tough spot, but it all depends on the situation, as we do see the Cinderace coming out with that Amoonguss on Nils' side, whilst on Antonio's side, we're going to be seeing that Rapid Strike Urshifu paired up with the Togekiss as a lead.
Yeah, so the Amoonguss is sitting in quite a nice position here, being able to redirect any water moves that would come out from the Urshifu into the Cinderace as well. So it's quite brave again, once again leading two Pokemon that are weak to Colossal into a potential Colossal lead as well. But this time, Antonio didn't lead with that. He's completely switched up with the Urshifu and the Togekiss as well. And Urshifu, not really known to threaten Amoonguss too much as well. It really needs to carry something like Ice Punch, or even one of its flying moves that's particularly weak, but you sometimes run for those Airstreams to be able to threaten down this Amoonguss. But Cinderace is just going to be able to go on the offensive here, whether that's a Steel Spike, as we've seen already, into the Togekiss, or something like a Max Airstream that would do a huge amount of damage to the Urshifu as well. But the Amoonguss is sitting in quite a comfortable position. It's going to be able to fire off a Spore pretty safely. Even though that the Togekiss does have that Lum Berry, it would be able to burn it immediately on turn 1.
Yeah, and Togekiss actually opts for Protect turn 1 of game 2. Doesn't want to accept any KOs this time round, as we do see the Max Steel Spike coming out from that G-Max Cinderace. Turns to the Steel typing as well, thanks to Libero. Doesn't, of course, pick up the KO, but deals so much damage that it looks like if the Protect wasn't in play, it definitely would have been able to pick up the KO, as it does boost its defense and Amoongus's by 1 stage, of course. Reveals Life Orb Recoil. Urshifu actually predicting the Max Steel Spike, goes with a close combat, not picking up the KO onto the Cinderace, but if it was a crit, for example, it definitely would have. And so well played there from Antonio, but unfortunately that Urshifu will, of course, be put to sleep thanks to that Amoonguss' Spore.
Nils was able to cover pretty much anything that Antonio could do that turn. The Steel Spike would have KO'd the Togekiss before the Spore went off, so only a Rillaboom switching somewhere would have been able to stop that Spore. But then the Rillaboom could have just been taking that Max Steel Spike if it switched in for the Togekiss as well. Quite a nice play going for the close combats as the Cinderace turned into a Steel type, but then you can see the benefit of those defense boosts coming out from the Max Steel Spike as well. The Cinderace being able to survive this turn, and now still going to be threatening a huge amount of damage, as the Togekiss is going to be in range of another Steel Spike, and the Urshifu is guaranteed to stay asleep this turn.
Yeah, we're actually going to be seeing the Togekiss switch out for the Colossal now. I would have thought maybe he could try to get a sneaky strategy going on, and this could have been turn 1 play with an Aqua Jet if he had it. But no, we're not going to be seeing that. We're just going to be seeing Max Airstream from the Cinderace actually going into the Colossal, which of course does resist. So, a very good switch out there from Antonio's side. Cinderace and the Amoonguss will be at +1 speed stat stage, of course, as the Urshifu does once again stay asleep. It does get his guaranteed turn, but we actually see the Pollen Puff from the Amoonguss onto the Cinderace, healing it, basically being able to use a Heal Pulse.
Yeah, you can see one of the benefits of having Pollen Puff as the attacking move on the Amoonguss as well. Cinderace is looking quite healthy once again. Probably still going to be in range of a close combat from the Urshifu if it did manage to wake up this turn and go for a close combat, but now the Cinderace is a flying type, and if it went for another Airstream into the Urshifu as well, it would remain that flying type as well and do a huge amount of damage to the Urshifu as well. Colossal's taken a reasonable amount of damage. It would take still a lot of damage as well if the Urshifu tried to wake up and go for an Aqua Jet into the Colossal as well to try and get that steam engine going. You'd have to go for a max flare to probably take out the Amoonguss. It may be able to survive one of those Volcalifts as well, but no Gigantamaxes here from the Colossal. Instead, it's going to be protecting itself.
Yeah, it's going to be going for the Protect as Cinderace does go for the Max Airstream. Now into the Urshifu slot, doesn't pick up the KO thanks to that Focus Sash. We didn't see any redirections from the Amoonguss as well. Maybe not expecting Antonio to try to hope for that Wake Up and Aqua Jet play, as the speed once again will be now at +2 for the Cinderace and the Amoonguss. The Amoonguss wanting to put that Colossal to sleep, but unfortunately is met with that Protect as Urshifu is just going to be taking the extra turn of sleep this time around.
Yeah, so the Amoonguss almost certainly going to be faster than the Colossal at this point with the 2 Max Airstream boosts. And you'd need to get that Aqua Jet into the Colossal this turn to be able to start outspeeding. Maybe the Cinderace would still be able to outspeed the Colossal even with that steam engine as well, because of those 2 Max Airstream boosts. And the Colossal's almost certainly going to be in high jump kick range at this point as well. And the Amoonguss, if it just wants to go for a Rage Powder to stop any Aqua Jets coming out from the Urshifu as well, then the Colossal wouldn't even be able to get its steam engine going at all. So the Cinderace is looking in quite a nice position here. It could just take the knockout on the Urshifu if it wants to, and then the Amoonguss could go for a Spore into the Colossal. But then that does open up that potential Aqua Jet play as well.
Yeah, definitely does. So we are going to be seeing the Dynamax come out, or Gigantamax. It probably will be this Gigantamax Colossal on Antonio's side. He might be trying to hope for that Aqua Jet play, and maybe either a Max Flare or a G-Max Volcalith. The Max Flare going into the Amoonguss, or G-Max Volcalith going into the Cinderace slot. So it's going to be really interesting to see it. I don't think it will outspeed a Cinderace, given the fact that it is at +2. But no, there's just going to be a safe Rage Powder coming out from that Amoonguss in case the Urshifu does wake up, which it doesn't, unfortunately, for Antonio. High jump kick coming out from the Cinderace. We'll be hoping to take this Colossal down, and just about does, ladies and gents. That is huge momentum grab from Nils' side, being able to get rid of Antonio's Dynamax on the same turn of Dynamax before it even moved. That could actually be game changing.
Yeah, the high jump kick being able to land into that Colossal, very nice damage. The Rage Powder just covering that Aqua Jet as well, and not letting that Colossal get any weakness policy boost, and that steam engine as well. The Rillaboom coming in here, we saw how much damage it did to the Cinderace before with the Grassy Glides when it was a +2 defense, but able to... now the Cinderace is still just a fighting type, so it wouldn't be able to resist the Grassy Glide coming out, and wouldn't be able to be redirected as well. So this Cinderace is now completely threatened by the Grassy Glide once again, but then the Urshifu doesn't threaten the Amoonguss. We know that it's taken all 3 turns of sleep now, so would be able to be either put back to sleep by the Amoonguss, or just even taken out by another one of those Pollen Puffs as well. And it'd be quite amusing to see 2 KOs from an Amoonguss going for a Pollen Puff in this match. But yeah, the Cinderace, it would have to switch out if it wants to avoid those Grassy Glides coming out from the Rillaboom as well. Maybe the Amoonguss just goes on the offensive with the Pollen Puffs, trying to chip away at the Rillabooms as well, as you can't go for a Spore into the Rillaboom as well, but Urshifu's going to be preserving itself, switching out into that Togekiss, which we know does have that Lumberry, so would be a very good Spore switch here.
Oh, definitely. We're just going to be seeing the Rillaboom go for the Grassy Glide and pick up the KO onto the Cinderace. There is, of course, no redirection from that Amoonguss, who will be trying to go for that Pollen Puff, to pick up the KO on the Urshifu, but Antonio's Togekiss denying that Amoonguss that crucial second KO it could have picked up in this set, and with the Pollen Puff, of course. And now Nils is going to be trying to think about his strategy and bring in his next Pokemon.
No KOs for Pollen Puff on the Togekiss this time. We saw how much damage it does, so very crucial, the Togekiss being so low in that first game. But now Nils does have that free switch in. We saw that he did have Urshifu in the back last time. He didn't bring Talonflame as a lead in this game, and usually you bring Talonflame as a lead or you don't bring it at all, so maybe switching it up at first. No, actually there's going to be that Talonflame waiting in the back as well. And now the Rillaboom is once again going to be not too threatening, because it's going to be facing down those 2 4x resists once again. Talonflame will be able to threaten this Togekiss with a Brave Bird as well. If a Amoonguss is only carrying Pollen Puff as its offensive move, The Togekiss may be able to survive the turn with a Brave Bird coming out from the Talonflame, followed by just a Pollen Puff as well. If it is carrying that Sludge Bomb, it would be able to take out the Togekiss this turn. So the Togekiss may be able to fire off another Yawn this turn, or a Dazzling Gleam to break the Gale Wings of the Talonflame, but it would need to go for a Follow Me to be able to stop that Rillaboom from being threatened by the Pollen Puffs and the Brave Birds as well. And that means that it won't be able to go for those Yawns that turn.
Yeah, Antonio's not in the best of spots right now, given the fact that he's just covered board position-wise quite well. Nils going for that Protect, actually, this time around. Rillaboom was hoping to go ahead and break that Gale Wings, but unfortunately wasn't able to do so, as the Amoonguss goes for that Spore into the Togekiss, but we have seen that this Togekiss is that Lumberry variant, so it will be able to just drop that status ailment and go and get its Yawn off onto the Amoonguss. So just like we saw in game one, hoping to slow down this Amoonguss just from all of its assists that it's able to do very well. It's able to put on a lot of pressure, even if it's not necessarily offensive.
We saw another unexpected thing in this game. We saw the Amoonguss take out a Togekiss with Pollen Puff, and now we've seen it outspeed as well, thanks to those max Airstream boosts as well. And now the Togekiss would be threatened by another Spore, now that the Lumberry has been taken care of. But at the same time, the Amoonguss has been yawned, so if the Togekiss is carrying Protect, it would be able to protect and allow the Amoonguss to go to sleep before it got spored. But then if you go for Protect on the Togekiss, then the Rillaboom is open to a Brave Bird from the Talonflame here. So interesting decisions coming up from both players, whether the Amoonguss wants to switch out to stop the yawn, which is what we're going to be seeing as well, and whether that Togekiss wanted to be redirecting the Brave Bird as well, or protecting to try and get that Amoonguss to sleep.
Yeah, Urshifu does join the field right now, the single strike variant, as Follow Me does come out from the Togekiss, as the Talonflame actually opts to go for Tailwind this time around and doesn't want to try to get any damage off. The Grassy Glide will be coming out, getting rid of the Gale Wings priority, but at this point, the Tailwind is up, and this is kind of what the Talonflame wanted to accomplish this turn round.
Now the Urshifu is in threatening good damage onto the Rillaboom as well. The Togekiss almost certainly not going to be able to survive a double up of a Brave Bird and a Wicked Blow, but then at the same time the Urshifu is now open to a Grassy Glide coming out from the Rillaboom. Maybe Nils wants to just switch back in that Amoonguss. It's got rid of the Yawn by switching out and would be able to switch in and resist the Gale Wings as well. And the Brave Bird's still probably not enough to take out the Togekiss as well. So if the Urshifu did switch out into the Amoonguss, then the Togekiss is probably going to be able to fire off another Yawn on this turn. But then it's still got the decision of whether it wants to still go for the Follow Me's to keep that Rillaboom safe.
And Rillaboom's just going to go for the Grassy Glide. It will be going to the Urshifu, not being able to pick up the KO, as we see the Talonflame go for Brave Bird in retaliation, picking up the one-hit KO onto that Rillaboom, showing how strong this Talonflame can actually be. Does get a lot of recoil damage, of course, because of that crucial KO, as Wicked Blow does come out, does go onto the Togekiss, dealing huge amounts of damage, nearly picking up a KO. Of course, it always critical hits. That is amazing damage output from that Urshifu, as the Dazzling Gleam will be coming out from the Togekiss, picking up the KO onto that Urshifu most definitely, and nearly bringing the Talonflame down to getting KO'd as well.
Now we see why it didn't protect in that game one. The damage output from that Urshifu, surely indicating a choice band on that Urshifu instead, doing huge damage to that Togekiss. Yeah. But now Nils is down to two very supported Pokemon in his endgame. He's got that Amoonguss, which is going to do pretty well against that Togekiss as well. But the Urshifu is also going to be the last Pokemon for Antonio, which doesn't really match up well against the Amoonguss at all. So it doesn't actually seem like there's too many ways for Antonio to break through this Amoonguss anymore. The Talonflame is also going to be able to take its choice of knockout on either Pokemon here with a Brave Bird. And yeah, it seems like these two supported Pokemon, even in the back for Nils, is going to be able to finish up this game. The Togekiss hasn't revealed Air Slash yet. If it did have Air Slash, the Talonflame is still just able to take it out with a Brave Bird first.
Yeah, as we do see the Togekiss go for the Protect this turn round, does want to try to add on to its longevity, as the Amoonguss does opt for the Rage Powder, doesn't want the Talonflame to go down, as Urshifu does wake up. It goes for the Aqua Jet, hoping to try to pick up a KO onto the Talonflame, and not expecting that Rage Powder, as we do see the Talonflame's Brave Bird being met by that Protect on the Togekiss.
Very safe Rage Powder there. Aquajet was something that could have KO'd the Talonflame first. And then maybe you can get a 2v1 going against the Amoonguss. Maybe if you went for Yawn as well into the Amoonguss, you'd be able to slowly chip away at it as well while it was asleep from that Yawn. But the Amoonguss, once again, can just go for another Rage Powder, keep the Talonflame safe from the Aquajet. And now that the Togekiss has gone for a Protect, it would need to get a double Protect to survive this Brave Bird, but it doesn't end up getting that.
It doesn't end up getting that as Amoonguss does go once again for the Rage Powder, maybe hoping or anticipating a potential Aquajet, as Brave Bird will be more than enough to pick up the KO on this Togekiss, leaving the Amoonguss in a very good spot of potentially getting its second KO of the set. As we do see Urshifu go for the Surging Strikes, it will be actually going into the Amoonguss, hoping to try to whittle down its HP, but not being able to do so as effectively, obviously, because not only is Amoonguss insanely bulky, it also resists water-type moves. So I think it's safe to say the Amoonguss is partly one of the MVPs on Nils' side during this game too.
It does seem to be the best way to break through the Amoonguss does seem to be the Colossal as well. But we saw it just didn't do anything in that game one and then just got KO'd immediately before it was able to attack with its Gigantamax form as well. So there's not really too many effective ways. There is the Incineroar as well, but that hasn't been brought for Antonio's side. Maybe he needs to think about that for game 3 as well, because he does need to find a way to break through this Amoonguss. A bit of a shame to see it go for a Rage Powder rather than taking its second KO of the match. But it may have even been able to outspeed the Urshifu in the Tailwind with the 2 Airstream boosts as well. But the Rage Powder did keep the Talonflame safe from the Aquajet as well, so a nice and safe play for Nils going into this endgame.
And we're actually going to see the Urshifu go for that Detect, as the Amoonguss does go for that safe Rage Powder, just wants to be able to seal out the game and pick up the KO. And game 2, of course, Brave Bird does go into that Detect from the Urshifu. So at this point, Antonio might be trying to consider to himself what to bring game 3. He's trying to buy a bit of time just to try to think out the process of how game 3 could go, what kind of strategy Nils should go for, if he's going to go for the same strategy, having that Talonflame in the back and the Amoonguss being so strong, or not. Because just like you said, Jamie, I feel like Colossal can be so good as long as Antonio is able to completely utilize it.
Yeah, it may seem a bit odd going for a Protect on the Urshifu in this endgame when you're definitely going to be KO'd to that Brave Bird, but yeah, like you said, buying some time to think, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. But yeah, if the Colossal gets going, if it gets its Steam Engine activated, then it would really be able to threaten down Nils' side. He still isn't bringing that Milotic to the game, and that is his main way of breaking through the Colossal. We've seen the 2 fighting moves, the high jump kick from the Cinderace as well, and the close combat should surely be coming out from the Urshifu as well. And we've seen that it is the choice band now, so it would be doing huge amounts of damage to the Colossal. But yes, yeah, the Talonflame's able to take out that Urshifu, going to be taking itself out in the same attack. So Amoonguss is going to be the final Pokemon left standing for Nils, and that is the Pokemon that Antonio really needs to be breaking through.
100%. It's just like you said, I feel like Incineroar, if you don't think you can get the Colossal mode going on Antonio's side, I feel like you're right. You have to bring that Incineroar. It can do a lot of work. It just all depends on the scenarios. It could get those Intimidates off as well, because we've seen that Talonflame was kind of left to its own thing as well. It not only got Tailwind up and going, it was able to just deal a one-hit KO and overall damage to pick up KOs on its side. So Antonio's really going to need to shut down that mode, because it seems like Nils isn't caring as much about the Colossal, or should I say anticipated Antonio not to lead Colossal.
He's led it's been 3 Pokemon at this point that are weak to the Colossal, with 2 Fire types and the Grass type in the Amoonguss as well. So could have been opportunities to get that Surf going. If the Colossal and the Dragapult did lead into the Amoonguss and Cinderace, you would definitely be able to get a Surf off, be able to activate the Steam Engine. But then you have to either contend with that high jump kick or the Spore going into the Colossal as well. So it's an interesting lead choice coming out from Nils from both games. It doesn't seem like he's threatening the Colossal too much on that first turn, but then it seems like he's playing the slightly longer game if he needs to deal with that Colossal as well. And yeah, it does seem like that will be the best way of dealing with that Amoonguss on Nils' side as well. So Antonio probably does need to focus on getting that Steam Engine activated and getting that Colossal going. But it's still going to be quite awkward. Whether he goes with that Dragapult mode to get the Surf off, that's still doing a lot of damage to the Colossal as well, maybe in high jump kick range. I don't think it would be in max knuckle range, as that is weaker than the high jump kick coming out from the Cinderace as well. But then you've also got that Aquajet mode from the Urshifu, but that is just shut down by the Amoonguss just going for Rage Powder. So it's quite an awkward one for Antonio, but if he is able to get that weakness policy off and the Steam Engine activated by the Colossal, that could be what he needs to break through Nils' team.
Oh, 100%. And talking about that duo, that combination, it's quite interesting because Urshifu does have Unseen Fist. So if Urshifu, for example, would go for that Aquajet into its own allied Colossal, and the Colossal did try to go for Protect, it would be able to go through and proc Weakness Policy and Steam Engine. So it's a really cool strategy. I'm not sure, does it actually take the reduced damage through Protect, or does it go straight through it, Jamie? I'm not sure.
No, it just goes straight through it. And yeah, you can't Aquajet yourself as you're going for a max guard, unfortunately. So you do take a huge amount of damage if you just opt for that Protect play with the self Aquajets. But yeah, like you said, if the Urshifu on Nils' side was able to just predict that and go for a close combat into the Colossal as it protects, that would still just pick up the KO. So we'll have to see if Antonio is able to get off that Steam Engine on that Colossal in this Game 3.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see what kind of leads they're both going for. Oh, and we're going to see Nils go back to that Game 1 lead in the Talonflame and the Dragapult, and the, Cinderace, as we are going to be seeing Antonio go for Dragapult and Colossal. So we've just reverted back to Game 1 leads, Jamie.
Well, this is the lead that Antonio was able to win with, but he didn't even go for that Colossal mode on the turn 1. He just switched it out immediately. But now there's going to be the mind games of whether Antonio is going to be doing that again. If you switch into the Togekiss with the Colossal, and then it was just something like a Steel Spike instead coming out from the Cinderace as you go for a Surf, that wouldn't be able to pick up the Colossal and would be able to fire off a Volcalith. So it's going to be some interesting mind games here. The Talonflame is almost certainly going to be clicking that Tailwind on the first turn, allowing the Cinderace to outspeed the Dragapult and the Colossal, even if the Steam Engine was active. And yeah, it's just going to come down to whether the Colossal is going to be staying in once again, and Antonio is going to get that Colossal mode going, and there's going to be no switches here, so that might be what he is going for.
No switches, as Nils is going to be going for the Dynamax first. It will be that Cinderace, unless it's a rogue Talonflame, but no, it is definitely G-Max Cinderace on Nils' side, trying to just go ahead and deal huge amounts of damage, as well as get additional boosts, whether to its attack stat or its speed, for example, as we are going to be seeing Antonio opt for that Colossal Gigantamax. So maybe wanting to try to say, listen, Nils, I want to go and get my mode going. I know it is so strong against your team composition. I just need to ensure that I can go ahead, get the necessary boosts I need, and pick up KOs. So we are going to be seeing the Talonflame go for that safe Tailwind. It is, of course, at +1 priority thanks to that Gale Wings ability. And the Max Steel Spike will be coming out from the Cinderace, of course, changing its Steel type. So if Antonio went for a Max Flare into it, it could maybe pick up the KO, but no. Talking about KOs being picked up, Max Steel Spike goes straight into the Dragapult. No playing around from Nils, and is able to pick up the one-hit KO onto it, not allowing that Colossal to be able to get any boosts off during this turn 1, as Max Flare does indeed come out, but doesn't actually pick up the KO. So crucial of a turn and choice for Nils to be able to make there, because if Antonio doesn't have a way to get that boost going for the Colossal in the back, it's not looking the best for him.
You can see why Focus Sash is so commonly run on the Dragapult as well. That Cobble Berry being the item of choice was great in Game 1, but in this Game 3, now that Nils know that it doesn't have that Focus Sash, able to just be taken out immediately by that Steel Spike. And the Colossal doesn't have its weakness policy activated, so wasn't even able to take out that Cinderace with the super effective Max Flare. And Incineroar is going to be the Pokemon of choice, so definitely going to be fearing that Amoonguss, bringing both of his fire types into this match. Going to be able to get an Intimidate off onto the Talonflame and the Cinderace as well. But now the Cinderace is just going to be able to fire off yet another max move as well. And the Colossal doesn't have its Steam Engine going, and not even its weakness policy as well. The Intimidate is going to be nice if the Max Knuckle goes into the Colossal to try and increase the damage output from the Cinderace and the Talonflame again. but that would be the only way to get the wings policy going on the Colossal as well. It's going to be able to survive whatever the Cinderace and the Talonflame throws at this turn, so maybe the Colossal just wants to get the Volcalith going, get that residual chip as well. But then at the same time, the Cinderace can just go for something like a Max Knuckle into the Incineroar. Maybe a Brave Bird and a Max Knuckle would be able to take out the Incineroar, and if it just goes for a Fake Out into the Talonflame, it's not threatening any damage this turn as well. So the Cinderace is still going to be able to fire off some big max moves, and there's going to be no Fake Out.
No Fake Out. Brave Bird does come out from the Talonflame into the Incineroar slot, wanting to get that chip damage. As the Cinderace is going to be going for a Max Knuckle, it might be targeting this Incineroar, actually, hoping to maybe pick up a KO with chip damage, and it does as well. What a crucial KO right there onto the Incineroar, starting to knock out Antonio's Pokemon. Turn 1, one Pokemon down. Turn 2, another Pokemon down, bringing Antonio down to his last 2 Pokemon, as the Cinderace is still right now alive and not exactly well at such small HP stat, as the G-Max Volcalith does come out, does go onto the Talonflame, definitely picks up the KO. It is 4 times super effective onto it. But will this Cinderace survive the G-Max Volcalith residual damage? Just barely does, and is able to utilize one more turn of its Gigantamax unless there's any sort of priority coming up from Antonio's side.
Yeah, so the Cinderace is going to be KO'd at the end of this turn if it stays in, whether that's to its Life Orb recoil or just the Volcalith at the end of the turn. But Incineroar has been taken out on Antonio's side, so if Nils still has that Amoonguss waiting in the back, it really has to be that Colossal that breaks through the Amoonguss now. We've got one more turn of Dynamax from both players. We've seen the Rillaboom be the Pokemon of choice for Antonio in the previous games, so if that is still going to be the Pokemon of choice, Cinderace won't be able to fire off another attack into Antonio's Pokemon, even if that Amoonguss were to come in as well. But if the Urshifu comes in for Nils' side, it would be able to threaten that Colossal with some close combats as well. But it is going to be that Amoonguss, so maybe wanting to redirect any moves that's coming up from Antonio's side. But that Rillaboom will be able to bypass the Rage Powder and will be able to take out the Cinderace. So it's actually not too bad of a position for Antonio now, because the Cinderace will be threatened by that Grassy Glide. And then Colossal will be able to fire off a Max Flare in the sun as well. It would depend on how fast the Pokemon are trained on both players' side, because Amoonguss and Colossal both have the same base speed, and we saw that Amoonguss outsped a Togekiss at +2 speed as well, so maybe it's going to be a bit more of a speedy Amoonguss as well. But then you always run speed on your Colossal as well to be able to make use of the Steam Engine boosts. But yeah, Grassy Glide will just be able to take out the Cinderace, and then it will come down to whether the Max Flare moves first before the Spore as well. Amoonguss could just protect itself as well to be able to survive this turn. But the Cinderace now really won't be able to get off any more moves, because this Grassy Glide is just able to take it out.
So which Pokemon is going to be moving first to determine this potential set right now? The Colossal or the Amoonguss? We actually see the Amoonguss outspeed, get that Spore onto the Colossal, shutting its last turn of its Gigantamax down, not allowing to accept any direct damage from it, as it does of course get some chip damage dealt onto it from that Volcalith in the previous turns. Also a bit of recovery from the grass terrain. Nice little interaction there, but that Amoonguss being trained to be that tiny bit more faster could prove to be quite pivotal.
I believe this is what we call a Turbo Shroom. Being able to make use of that Tailwind as well. If you train the Amoonguss a lot in speed, it can outspeed a lot of Pokemon in that Tailwind, or just from the Max Airstream boost as well, and being absolutely crucial here to outspeed that Colossal. Use up the last turn of Gigantamax as well, so it would just be back down to going for a Heat Wave from the Colossal now. That may not even be able to take out the Amoonguss, even in the sun, because the Colossal didn't get its Sweetness Policy activated. If it's the Urshifu waiting in the back for Nils as well, which it does end up being, the Colossal has lost its Gigantamax turns. It can't max guard from the close combat that could come out from the Urshifu. No. And it would just come down to whether the Rillaboom was able to take out the Urshifu with a Grassy Glide. Almost certainly not going to be able to take it out from full HP without a critical hit. So really, the Urshifu can just fire off close combat into the Colossal, and then the Amoonguss will be able to eventually 1v1 that Rillaboom with just some Pollen Puffs, because it does resist that Grassy Glide so well. So it's going to come down to whether that Grassy Glide is able to take the knockout on the Urshifu, because the Colossal is definitely being KO'd to a close combat.
what a what a very, very close set this has been. Being able to end up in a scenario with a potential Rillaboom versus a Moongus game just goes to show this is so crucial. The Grass Glide does not pick up the KO onto that Urshifu, does move first, and that close combat is more than enough to pick up the KO onto the Colossal. So we might be looking at that scenario like you mentioned, Jamie. It'll be really, I'm going to assume Pollen Puff is going to be coming out now, yeah, as it does. It actually targets the Rillaboom, doesn't want to try to recover any HP onto its ally. Of course, there's no real need to. It's just all about trying to get rid of this Rillaboom for Nils' side.
That Pollen Puff is actually doing very respectable damage. It is super effective, but it is still an Amoongus firing off that Pollen Puff. But yeah, the Colossal being able to be taken out by the close combat. The Grassy Glide not enough on the Shifu as well. And that would have been why the Amoongus outsped it. This Tailwind was still up from the Talonflame earlier in the game, so being able to outspeed the Colossal there. But even now, the Rillaboom has to take a turn Grassy Gliding this Shifu for the KO. But then may just be two more, almost certainly three more Pollen Puffs to be able to take out this Rillaboom. And I don't think the Rillaboom can take out the Amoongus in 3.
No, I don't think so. And you're right, one more Pollen Puff looks like it might be enough to seal this game off for Sweden's side and not allowing Spain to go for the clean sweep, at least on stream, to catapult themselves straight into the grand final. So very well played from both players. Amoongus right now being able to once again, Jamie, prove its worth. It has to be the MVP at this point for Nils, because it was all the question of, can Antonio get rid of this Amoongus? And unfortunately for himself, he wasn't able to do so in game 2 and 3.
Yeah, so Amoongus is going to be taking 2 knockouts in this game, and so Grassy Glide, yeah, it's not doing too much damage, but Pollen Puff is going to be coming out once again and should be taking out this Rillaboom. So like you said, the Amoongus is definitely the MVP here, and is able to take the game for Nils and Sweden.
Wow, that is such an impressive show of board position management coming up from both players, because given the fact that you were able to see how it was going to be played out and recognize what is the crucial parts of your strategy and your team composition versus your opponent, proved to be so huge. Not only that, I feel like Antonio could have also, you saw with Incineroar in game 3, right? Because we know that Steam Engine can be procced not only by water type moves, but also by fire type moves. So if Incineroar would have maybe tried to go for a Flare Blitz into the Colossal, it would be able to allow it to get that max speed that it so wanted and desperately needed to, for example, outspeed the Amoongus, the Turbo Shroom, as we saw. So, I mean, that was such a close game coming out from some 2 really good players.
Yeah, it was interesting seeing the Dragapult Dynamax in game 1, and that was actually the successful strategy for Antonio as well. But the Amoongus was just so threatening for Nils. Antonio didn't really have the best of ways of breaking through it. He didn't bring the Incineroar to games 1 and 2, so was really threatened down as well. The Togekiss didn't have a flying type move, so the best it could do was yawn the Amoongus, but then still had to take a Spore to burn its Lumberry, but then was still threatened again. Yeah, the Amoongus was absolutely the MVP for Nils.
And with that being said, Nils was able to go ahead and bring it, at least today's stream score, to 3-1. That is in favor of Spain, but being able to allow Sweden that chance to just survive and still see hope to go into the grand finals next week. So, I mean, very, very impressive play coming out from both players, because, like you said, the Dynamax Dragapult was the correct Dynamax for game 1 for Antonio, but then it just felt like he wasn't able to just shut down the offensive pressure from Nils' side, that Amoongus, should I say, which isn't exactly offensive pressure, but my lord,